Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm back with another video, and this is another exciting one as we head back into the top 4 of yet another tournament. Today I'm going to be recapping to you the Summer Showdown knockouts. We were gifted with so many great games from these knockouts, and I'm going to go over all of them here today. We'll kick things off with what I'd consider the worst, which I think was objectively the worst knockout game of them all, as it just went as expected in a bit of a blowout. This was the Shanghai Dragons versus New York Excelsior. So this was a 3-0 to the Shanghai Dragons, and this is what everyone would have expected. I'm sorry, APAC, you cannot let New York get back to the top 4 internationally, again like you did previously. I mean, we cannot see New York compete with the best NA teams once more, please. I mean, I say compete. Last time we saw New York in the top 4, were they really competing? Come on. That being said, I would like to mention that New York, I'm starting to see what they were going for with this roster. They definitely have bright spots, and I think as we look into the long term going into next season, I don't feel too bad about a core of this New York Excelsior roster being kept around and being built upon. I mean, it wasn't shown particularly in this series, so this is a bit of a side note, but I like where New York is heading. At the start of this season, I was not fond of them whatsoever, and by the end of this season, I don't think I'll be fond of this roster either. But I can see that there's glimmers of hope within New York, and to be honest, next year, if they make the right additions, they're definitely a team to watch. Shanghai Dragons, on the other hand, we don't learn anything from here. They should have taken this away handily, and they did. Shanghai is going to go to their 3rd of 3 top 4s, and it's going to be exciting to see if they're going to be able to take a second win. I will say, another side note, not really to do with this game specifically, but Fate has really been playing well since that last tournament. Since they got that win, Fate has looked great. I think Fate should be, this may be unexpected, but I think Fate should be in the conversation for best wrecking ball in the league. I mean, he doesn't do many flashy plays or tech, but as a main tank playing wrecking ball, I've seen a lot of value come from him. Often when you see main tanks play wrecking ball, it's either flashy, where they're doing really good at some bits, lighting up the kill feed, but then other times they're just flopping, or they're just flopping 24/7. But Fate has managed to get a really good balance of making the plays but also being that stable main tank that the Shanghai Dragons need to fall back on. So I'd say, even though this roster is so star-studded, if there's one person I'm going to be watching from this team, it's going to be Fate. Alright, so then we head into our second knockout game for the APAC region, and this one was an absolute beauty, I must say. The Seoul Dynasty versus Chengdu Hunters. Now, if you have the time, if you only have time to watch 1 or 2 matches, I'd say go watch this one. Now, I'd say this was a very good match. If you're a fan of the APAC region and haven't watched this one, you have to. It was so back and forth. Not one team looked dominant throughout the whole series. The scoreline was 3-2 in the end to the Chengdu Hunters, and I think that was reflected in the play. They did deserve to win in the end, but it definitely was not one-sided to them whatsoever. I did really want to see Seoul Dynasty compete internationally for a tournament, and maybe they'll do it next time, because, you know, Chengdu, you've had your chance, get out. Maybe Chengdu will make some magic happen this time around. But I did want to see Seoul up against some of the NA teams, but it doesn't really matter. I think this is going to be good to see how some of the upper middle of the pack APAC teams compete against the top tier North American ones. Now, let me paint a picture for you about how great this game was. Alright, let's go back. It's Season 1. London Spitfire, the champions of the world. They win in a dominant fashion. And what has stuck out to them all that season? Prophet's Tracer, of course. Prophet was the best Tracer that season. Just imagine it. Season 2 rolls around, you don't see much Tracer. But then Season 3 comes back, and Prophet is still the god Tracer he was before. And now we're in Season 4, and Prophet, he's not dropped the Tracer ball. But then on the other side, you've got the Chengdu Hunters. You've got Leave. Oh, Jesus Christ. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's thundering outside. Really scared. I'm really scared. Back on topic though. On the other side, you've got Leave. He has taken the league by storm this season. He was a beast last season, but this season he's really had a good go. I'm telling you now, if Chengdu does good for the rest of the season, Leave has got to be up there for MVP. I mean, he has looked so good all season. I don't know if he's being underrated because I don't really know where others are placing him, but I would have him top 3 DPS in the league, in my opinion, without a shadow of a doubt. He is so good, and seeing him go up against possibly the best DPS player of all time, very debatable, but possibly the best DPS player of all time in Profit, that was just a phenomenal duel to watch throughout the whole series. So that's it for APAC. The qualifying teams were the Shanghai Dragons and Chengdu Hunters, just as they were for the main melee. Now let's take a look over at NA and see if anything's changed over there. So in North America, the first game we saw was the Paris Eternal versus the Washington Justice, and unlike in APAC, the winner of this game wouldn't be going straight to Hawaii. Instead, they still had to go through the Dallas Fuel of all teams to get there, which is not an easy task for any team, let alone one that has to win a game and then be the Dallas Fuel as well. This was another really good game. I mean, I'll start with the Paris Eternal. Paris Eternal have smashed every single expectation I had of them. I thought they're just going to be the second best EU team. They're not. They're the first by miles. I thought they're going to be lower than middle of the pack. But not only have they got past middle of the pack, this tournament, they have been a top tier NA team. I mean, look at the stats. They have been a top tier NA team this tournament. And this is not me being high on Paris Eternal. This is just looking at the numbers. I mean, they got this far. You have to give him some credit. Khan has been doing phenomenally, and I probably shouldn't say this now because I might have a video coming out on it in a bit, but Khan, I'm thinking about him for Rookie of the Year, not going to lie. I mean, Pelican, you'll see later on, is still doing Pelican things, but Khan has made such an impact on this roster. Also, Naga, his Echo is top tier, world class. I mean, if Echo was permanently meta, Paris Eternal would be doing even better than they are right now, which anyone that goes back and watches my preseason power rankings is not going to expect me to have said that. But then on the other side, we have the Washington Justice. Now, I have probably been the highest person you've seen on the Washington Justice, other than a Washington Justice fan, because I've been high on these guys from the start, since before the tournament started, and they probably let me down. First 2 tournaments, they flopped, but now they're finally starting to look like the Washington Justice I thought they would be. They've got Decay in full time by the looks of it, and that's obviously a good sign. They should never be taking this guy out. I don't know why they did. And this allowed the Justice to take home a 3-2 victory against the Paris Eternal. I'm going to highlight another Washington Justice player when I talk about their next match, because I think it was even more profound in that match how good he was. So comment down below who you think I'm going to be mentioning, and we'll go over to the next game. So then we had what people were thinking would be a juggernaut of a team this season in the Los Angeles Gladiators, taking on a proper underdog, an up-and-coming team in the Boston Uprising, and this was a blowout once more. The Gladiators absolutely manhandled the Boston Uprising. I think anything less than this would have either been disappointment for the Gladiators or joyous occasions for the Boston Uprising, whichever way it went. I think both sides, Boston Uprising, have been looking really good. So I'd say a similar sort of Paris Eternal situation, exceeding everyone's expectations, doing really, really good, especially this tournament, getting the wins that they needed, other than the big one right here. And the LA Gladiators, on the other hand, I'd put in the same boat as the Washington Justice as well. They were not too impressive in either of the other tournaments, but then we see them here come out of the gates, and they're finally winning stuff, and it could be soon enough. They could now have the chance coming up to the Countdown Cup and then playoffs. This team, Gladiators, I think you guys should be happy if you're a Gladiators fan, because they're finally looking up. I do have a query. Why are they ever not starting Birdring? They've done it in their last couple of matches, which shows to me it's fully a coaching choice, and I do not understand it one bit. I mean, you've got Birdring, a great tracer, Kevster, a great Echo. We've seen this. We saw these guys playing those exact roles for a large amount of the season. And now you've got Mirror on the Echo and you've got Kevster on the Tracer. I've watched it. Kevster's a really good tracer, but he's not Birdring levels. And Mirror, I mean, Kevster's just a better Echo. So I don't really understand where the logic has come from to ever take Birdring out. Like, I understand Mirror coming in for Kevster to play the Doomfist. I get that, but taking Birdring out, I'm not too sure, man. not too sure, DP. So then it takes us to the first actually important knockout game, and whoever won this game would be going on to the final 4 of this tournament, and it's going to be the Washington Justice versus Dallas Fuel. Oh my god, I love this game so much. We saw players that had never done anything before do stuff in this game. The pendulum was constantly swinging. This game was not one-sided by any means. Each team dominated at specific parts, at very different parts, and it was back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. The final result though was 3-2 to the Dallas Fuel, sending Dallas Fuel to their 3rd of 3 Hawaiis. Washington Justice though put up a phenomenal fight. I want to highlight Mag. Mag's Reinhardt was always a question mark since we first saw him play it up until now. Everyone was skeptical about how Mags Reinhardt stacked up against all the other Reinhardts in the league. However, the game before the actual knockouts, I think it was Washington Justice versus Gladiators, and in that game, I mean, Mag looked dominant on the Reinhardt, and I don't know if many people were talking about it. I think the desk mentioned it, but Mag looked really good on that Reinhardt, and then when we came into this game, people were shocked at how good Mags Reinhardt was, but anyone that watched that series before the knockouts actually happened realised, damn, Mag is a force to be reckoned with on the Reinhardt. We already knew his Winston was good. We already knew his Monkey was good. We already knew he was really good on the ball as well, but his Reinhardt here really stood out to me. While they did lose the series, Dallas Fuel was definitely favourites in this game. Dallas Fuel was definitely favourites across the entire of NA to go through to Hawaii, and they've made it 3rd out of 3. One thing to highlight about this, if Dallas Fuel wins, they're going to be leading the entire league in tournament wins. But if Shanghai wins, they're going to be leading the league in tournament wins. If either of the other 2 teams win, it's going to be all to play for. 3 teams will be tied up there for the top spot. That's not regular season, by the way. That's not just standings. That's, I mean, how many wins they've actually got through tournaments. I do want to know, though, and I really think this, if the Washington Justice were on the other side of the bracket, if they went up against Atlanta Reign, could we be seeing the Washington Justice in Hawaii? To be honest with you, I could see that. Now, there's going to be no way to know that unless next tournament we see it happen, but I have something in me just telling me, yeah, Washington would have done well. And that something in me is called a brain, seeing how well Mag, Decay, Assassin, and Fury were all playing. I just think they really had a shot this tournament, and it was all messed up by them having to play the Dallas Fuel. So then there was the very last game between the LA Gladiators and the Atlanta Reign. Now, I'd say the biggest takeaway from this is that Atlanta is a proper team. We saw them qualify last tournament, and they made it, and they did pretty well when they got to Hawaii. But to be honest, I don't know if this was just me, but I specifically still didn't have full faith in Atlanta. I still felt teams like Gladiators would be able to take them down. But no, Atlanta Reign proved to us that they really are consistent and they really are dominant. I will say these sorts of runs are really making the Pelican Rookie of the Year candidate look very appetizing. Alright, I'm not going to eat Pelican. That sounded really weird. Anyway, yeah, basically Atlanta Reign is looking God mode, and Los Angeles Gladiators, don't be disheartened from this. You still put up a great fight against what we now know as a great team. Thanks so much for watching the whole video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share it to all of your friends if you have no friends. Share it to your family if you have no family. I'm very sorry for you. Goodbye.